Dale is definitely one of the most unsettling Warhammer Chaos characters from a design perspective. That one creepy eye staring out. Anyway, today we're going to take a look at Norsca and also Slaanesh. I want to talk to you about Pleasureseekers because I've got a couple of them, and if you saw my video yesterday, you know they're quite good, so I'm going to give them a go here. I've got two, plus a bunch of Devoted Marauders. Got a mix of spears, plus one whip, and some Marauder Horsemen. We've got the brand new Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh, right? So we had the regular Lord of Slaanesh. Now we've got the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. They both come with the Demonic Steed mounts, which are going to have a little bit of shader issues on this map, which looks very cool, but hopefully will be fixed. Yeah, he's Devastating Flanker, Armor Piercing, Soporific Musk, and it's the monstrous mount for the Chaos character. So we've also got the Exalted Hero, who is new, and is probably the most unique-looking Exalted Hero we've got in the game before. Shield, whip, and the extra arm, which is just amazing. Yeah, super Chaos. I love it. Then, on the opposite side, from Norsca, HDS, my opponent once again, we've got Sail, as you saw in the beginning, and some of the new monsters. We'll quickly just run through. We've got a nice charcuterie of monsters to look at, starting with the most vile and disgusting charcuterie is the Cursed Etin. He's got Vanguard deployment, a little bit less weapon strength than a giant, but these two passives, both of which are pretty good. First one, of course, when he's over 50% HP, he gets Unyielding Assault, Glorious Charge, and a little bit of extra speed. I will say also from an animations perspective, as you'll see, they do have faster animations than the Giants generally do, so that's a benefit for sure. Then below 50% HP, he gets a passive heal, which is really nice, makes him very tough to kill with that massive HP pool. And yeah, extra little bit of weapon strength, less melee defense on an already not great melee defense, but relatively small sort of footprint, unintended, of a monster as well. Then we've got the Dreadmaw, so you're going to see HDS and, you know, kind of try and figure out how to use it in this battle. I'll talk more probably about it later in a different dedicated video, but basically, according to CA, how you're supposed to use this is to, like, burrow out of the ground and deal damage. It is very cool. It's the first underground unit we've ever seen. It can burrow under the ground, and then it pops up, and yeah, there's some mechanics that go along with that. Again, we'll talk more about it kind of as we see it. He does have this ranged attack, which doesn't really do a ton. Not the best monster in melee. He's got okay-ish stats. He'll do some damage in melee, but again, I guess the idea is you burrow into the ground, and then he does damage when he explodes up out of the ground. But so far for me, the best monster in the DLC has to be the Chimera. It's just amazing. I think it was branched off the Mantcore skeleton probably, which means it has a really good animation set. It's got immune to flanking, which is good for any monster, but especially flying monsters who are diving down often into combat. That is really nice. It's also got a really good breath attack and poison, magic, fire damage for the 3 heads, right? So really nice. Not the best melee defense, but decent weapon strength, especially for the cost. They're relatively on the cheap side for flying monsters. I think 1350 coming in for the base version, so very affordable. And then to back them up, the new Light Horsemen for Slaanesh, mid-tier cost Light Horsemen. They're about 700 each. Kurgan Horsemen, looking very cool. We've got a great weapon variant here with armor piercing, and all 3 great weapon variants. Cool. There's a dual hand weapon variant as well that has anti-infantry, but without further ado, let's get things rolling. Oh yeah, the Bearmen. The Bearmen, who could forget? They're sort of a mid-tier marauder infantry unit, slotting in between the basic marauders and champions. They've got a massive HP pool. That's kind of their main selling point. Their stats overall are decent. I mean, they are light infantry at the end of the day, but let's see. We're going to get things rolling here as I decide where to send my Pleasureseekers. We're going to just go straight into the Miters of the Mighty Serpent here, if it'll allow me to charge them. One unit does charge, the Dreadmaw manages to get a pretty good surround, do some great burst damage before it burrows under the ground, and then the Etin moves in. Sail's going to throw up Chain Lightning, which I think has new VFX, very cool. Yeah, just does massive damage there, and to my Devoted Marauders, these Pleasureseekers are going to have to get out of there, as they were starting to take some unnecessary damage. Definitely their blast cannon units as much of Slaanesh is, but given their super fast speed and the mass, they can kind of just go wherever they want to, as you'll see. And we're going to flip perspectives, zoom in on them, away from the beautiful monsters as they charge into the bearmen here. The blackened steeds looking particularly cool right now, lighting on this map, but what you don't see is the disappearing health bar of the Marauders here. Both units just get absolutely crushed on the charge there, and it's going to be a classic hammer and anvil just on down the line as we try and punch through. In the front, I should say in the Monster Mash, in the the Exalted Hero not having such a great time as expected against the Cursed Etin. I mean, he did some damage, but we're going to have to pull back and reassess, try and figure out what to do here. Same thing, Dreadmaw, trying to figure out, like, do I want to do a ranged attack? How do we do this here? But Kurgan Horsemen seeing like they're going to maybe come in and try and pursue a little bit, maybe go after my Marauder Horsemen. I'm just basically keeping them at bay with my heroes here for the time being, while the Pleasureseekers try and run through the infantry. See the Marauder Horsemen out there in the distance as well, kind of baiting these units out, trying to assist in taking them down. But the Kurgan Horsemen realizing, like, oh, maybe we can just countercharge here. I'm going to bring in my one unit of Hellstriders that's also been hanging around, which are a great complement, of course, to the Pleasureseekers, being able to help defend them against enemy skirmish cavalry. Since we dealt with most of them, we go ahead and just hammer this Kurgan Horseman. Speaking of glass cannons, the Kurgan Horsemen definitely fall into that category. They are a unit that is quite good if they get a good charge, but it's pretty easy to just, you know, like fumble them, blunder them even. But like here, where they are able to get a rear charge into the Hellstriders, they're going to do some really nice damage, just clobber that unit, and help follow up now. Maybe even get some armor piercing on my Exalted Hero here. And it does have, I think, less armor than the base Exalted Hero, but anyway. Yeah, the breath attack from the Chimera there does some pretty good damage. You'll see it in later replays doing very good damage to infantry in particular. But right now hasn't really charged down into combat too much. That being said, Sail is a little bit caught up here against the double steed combo. Oh yeah, in the Plains of Chaos here, we're having a grand old time. Kurgan Horsemen gonna screen, defend their lord, box out my two bros. So, we're gonna hit them with Pleasureseekers. Demonic Steeds. Having a great time. Cursed Etin coming to help, as is the Chimera. Oh yeah, nice rear charge there from the Chimera. It won't take care too much about the devastating flanker, as it is immune to flanking, of course, but still can get surrounded and take damage, definitely. Ooh, the burst from the ground there, actually, yes, you see that does some pretty decent damage, even to a monstrous cavalry unit, so definitely seems like against an infantry unit that would absolutely decimate them. But the Dreadmaw making a nice little contribution there. Cursed Etin just getting turned into a pincushion currently by my Marauder Horsemen. Trying to get through that massive HP pool and regeneration. Yeah, only have so much ammo, so hopefully we get it done before he decides to win it. But yeah, the breath attack for the Chimera once more. Gonna go into some Marauder Horsemen. Yeah, really solid damage. Especially considering Marauder Horsemen, they're relatively big, so it, you know, area-wise, it's not maybe hitting as many of them as it would in normal units. Still very solid damage. Charges down once more. My two generic Chaos Bros having the fight of their lives here. They're both definitely overmatched against Norsca's single entities here, but just trying to hang on, basically, and use the high speed of their mounts to cycle them out as much as I need to. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord, definitely I've blundered a little bit and let him get way too low on HP. Hopefully it doesn't cost me the game. Definitely could. But the Dreadmaw, I'd noticed, even though it is technically immune to flanking, it seems to just take a ton of burst damage when the Pleasureseekers surround it. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of broken interaction there, or if the Pleasureseekers are legitimately just doing that much damage, maybe with their charge bonus. But I guess Devastating Flanker just gives them extra charge bonus when they're flanking, so they would still get that, even though they're not bypassing the melee defense, which I believe is what immune to flanking does. It also prevents leadership penalties, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Sail gets surrounded and eaten by the Pleasureseekers as well. And, you know, despite the fact that I ran in, they took some damage, a pretty good amount of damage, honestly, on that initial engagement there. They were still able to run around the battlefield and just win me the game pretty much. Like, I would definitely say, and we'll see that in the post-game, that they are by far and away the most important thing in my army, and definitely what carried the game for me, no question. We're going to hit army losses there. I'm actually not 100% convinced I would have won that, but the Chimera, I don't know. I guess it was getting pretty low, and we were just about to finish off the Etten as well. But yeah, man, those Pleasureseekers, 2,000 damage value here, 2,000 damage value there, 223 kills, 178 kills on the other. I mean, just spectacular performance, and I would say below average micro from me. I'm pretty rusty, rolling out my rusty buggy here to play some battles for you all, but in the hands of a very skilled player, these are going to be nasty. I mean, you can blunder them still, definitely. And the low armor, relatively speaking, is an issue, but they are everything that Stag Knights wish they could be, honestly. They're so good, and I will make that comparison more here in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, everything else in my army kind of did fine, or like not great. There's a couple of infantry units paid for themselves, which is nice, but even the characters really just did pretty poorly. But the Pleasureseekers did awesome, which makes me very happy. Sail also, considering he was on foot, that's actually very cost effective for the damage he can put out. He's kind of a... yeah, we'll talk more about Sail probably in a dedicated video. He fits into an interesting role on the Norsca roster, and just, you know, initial reactions, we'll have to see how he might just take Wulfric's place. It's definitely possible. You might also see the generic Shaman Sorcerer Lord as a Lord level caster and just go max army width or whatever, you know, units. But the monsters for Norsca, Dreadmaw, yeah, I mean, it's 1,000 gold, so it's relatively cheap, and I don't know. The implementation of it is cool, definitely very unique, and it's nice to see that kind of a mechanic. But I don't know. I'll have to test it out and see. In the battles I've seen so far, it hasn't been wildly effective. Chimera, on the other hand, has been very effective. Even here, it's still a little bit under its cost and gold value, but overall, I think had the battle gone on a little bit longer, it actually would have paid for itself. So yeah, Chimera is definitely a winner. Kurgan Horsemen, we see the dichotomy here. Two of them, yeah, do okay, but this one, it does pay for himself. 700 gold value on them, which is their cost, so pretty good. Bearmen, again, they suffer from mid-tier light infantry problem, which is that a lot of things just murder them. The extra HP definitely helps, but I think there would be some matchups where you might take them. We'll talk probably more about them in another video as well, but let's real quick just end with the Pleasureseekers and some comparisons for other monstrous cavalry. So coming in at 1800, the Pleasureseekers are quite a bit, you know, they're on par with other, like, demonic monstrous cavalry. We consider the other comparison I wanted to make as well. We'll look at a couple here, but let's pull up Nurgle and let's pull up the Wood Elves. So Rot Knights are another recent kind of demonic monstrous cavalry. Although they're technically mortals, they're not demonic. That is an important distinction to make here. And there are no mortal, you know, champions mounted on the demonic steeds, so this is not available for Warriors of Chaos. We'll talk more about that in another video again, but yeah, I mean, both get poison. The Rot Knights get passive regeneration and anti-large, but the Pleasureseekers also can regenerate by chasing routing units. Probably not as efficiently, because it depends on... doesn't say the max intensity on this. I noticed they've started listing that on some intensity-based abilities, but in regeneration just is, you know, 0.1 per second, so very comparable units. Of course, the Rot Knights have armor. They do have more HP as well, baseline, but that speed, man, 100 speed is just ridiculous. And let's check the mass values. 1500 for Rot Knights and 1800 for Pleasureseekers. Okay, so they actually have more mass, which means, again, their ability to disengage is going to be absolutely top tier. And I think, yeah, in the hands of skilled, like, top tier players, it's going to be a really nasty unit, I think. Vanguard deployment, of course, as well, which is always a nice bonus, especially on certain maps. But, yeah, and then, of course, if we come in here to Stag Knights, the base Stag Knight is quite a bit cheaper, so I guess it's not 100% of a fair comparison. It's sort of a lower tier Monstrous Cavalry, but yeah, I mean, Stag Knights are 90 speed, and they definitely don't feel as fast as the Pleasureseekers. The Pleasureseekers also, like, acceleration, you know, all those kind of hidden speed attributes feel really good to play, so that's a component. And then also their melee defense. Only 32 melee defense for Stag Knights versus 55 melee defense for Pleasureseekers. If anything, not that I'm calling for nerfs, but we definitely needs more data. But if anything ends up getting nerfed on the Pleasureseekers, I could see it being that melee defense, because that is quite high for a unit that's this fast and hard to pin down. Yeah, the Rot Knights also have pretty good melee defense, but not as good as the Pleasureseekers. Pleasureseekers actually have better overall combat stats. Let's look at the Corn Boys. Since the base game. Yeah, Skull Crushers. Well, I think there's something going on with their animations anyway. But, yeah. Just for the on-paper comparison, at least. Yeah, Skull Crushers also don't have the best, as good of sustained combat stats. So then melee attack and defense also, you know, the fact they're demonic means they're not going to rout. They're just going to crumble. So at 70 leadership, it makes him almost unbreakable, basically. Yeah, really, really good unit. Really, really, maybe too good, but we'll talk more about the rest of Slaanesh's additions as they come up in the battles, so be sure to stay tuned so you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.